Previously on your favorite episode.
This character, this alien character that's bugging Will Wheaton, is the kid in class who raises his hand when the teacher to remind the teacher that they haven't give out homework.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new edition of Your Favorite Episode. I am your host, Jackie, and joining me is my partner and producer, Mickey.
Hi, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Our guest today is a hysterical comedian and wonderful human to hang out with, Carmen Morales. You can find Carmen bopping around the country telling jokes on tour, or you could check out her 15-minute set on HBO's Entre Nos, now streaming on HBO Max. And also, I don't know if I pronounced that right, and if I pronounced it wrong, I apologize. But first, she's right here with us to talk about her favorite episode of television ever. What is it? Season 2, Episode 3 of Rick and Morty, Auto-Erotic Assimilation. Y'all ready to get into it? Let's go.
TV rots your brains.
That's absurd. TV only softens the brain like a ripe banana.
Television. Much of our future depends on the way we use this medium of communication.
Because I was talking to a friend of mine who goes, wait, his ex is the planet or his ex is the hive mind? And I was like, wasn't it both? I think it's both.
Wait, was there a separate planet one, or is it this both?
Yeah, Gaia, where he ends up fighting God.
Mm-hmm. You're right. It's all of those tiny, weird alien baby things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Not really tiny, though. They were like full-grown humans when they came out. Okay, so I already did the intro thing because I feel like that's awkward to do in front of somebody, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
So we can just get started. Okay. And I should have prepped you for this, but one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is kind of give us an overview of what Rick and Morty even is. Like, pretend someone has never heard of it, never seen it, which seems impossible. But here we go.
I'm surprised you guys nobody's done an episode of it yet.
No, I was too.
Wow, yeah. I guess there's just so much good TV. A lot of times people aren't going to go to animation, but I'll explain all that to you on why. I'll justify my reasoning for picking a cartoon.
So what is Rick and Morty like? Just an overview of the show.
Oh. We have started. Okay.
Yes, we have started. I'm sorry.
Okay, wow,
I'm autistic, so it's very awkward. I don't know how to say things right.
Cool. Duly noted. All right, sweet. Well, I thought you guys were gonna welcome me to the show or any of that stuff at all, but we can just dive right into it. That works. Hi, I'm Carmen Morales. I'll introduce myself. I'm Carmen Morales. I'm a comedian, and the episode of which I have chosen for you guys today is an episode of Rick and Morty, which is an animated, and I would even put it on the cusp of adult animation, about a kind of a dysfunctional family, which is classic. That's all good animation is based around a dysfunctional family. But this one in particular is about a dysfunctional family that happens to have one of the smartest people in the world as an old grandfather. And then he has the dynamic very similar to that of a Doc Brown and a Marty McFly. If Marty McFly was 12 and had no fucking backbone at all. And if Doc Brown was kind of a piece of shit.
That is accurate. Do you know the origin story? Like, do you know how Rick and Morty came to be?
Rick and Morty came about because it was originally a very disturbing and kind of fucked up and gross animation by Justin Roiland. There was I remember watching the genesis of it, and it was just Rick would be cornering Morty into doing something disgusting or touching his dick or something like that. It was something really gross. And
the original ones were really bad, but it was part of this thing started by Dan Harmon and Rob Schraub called Channel 101. And it's basically this thing in LA where once a month these people get together and they make 5-minute television pilots, and every month 5 of them get to continue their run of shows, and The rest of them do not. Like they get canceled after their pilot. And it was it started as a Channel 101 pilot, and I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
Because it's just like a thing that anybody can do. Like during the pandemic, they made it virtual. They're like, we're going to do Channel 1 virtually. And we attended a lot of them. And we even submitted a pilot that did not get picked.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that I always love things like that, where it's just kind of like harvesting creativity. But this is the other thing that's about that specifically is I think that Justin Roiland, who is, you know, one of the co-creators / writers / the voice of Rick and Morty, big ass, all for one person. I think that he is kind of nuts, you know, like a lot of cool artists are, and I mean, Dan Harmon gets a lot of shit because he's a drunk and he's an asshole and all of those things. But I think a lot of times that person is what can harness someone's crazy enough to make put them in a position where they can be as brilliant as they actually are without the chaos of their own brain cock blocking it, if that makes sense. Yeah. And that's kind of what I think. There's a beautiful marriage between those two people making this. I think it's part of the reason why I don't know that their relationship is healthy by any means, but I don't think anyone's relationship is healthy in this show. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, that's a really good observation too, because that wouldn't be the first time that Dan Harmon has harnessed somebody's like wild, ridiculous creativity like that. Because before Justin Roiland, he was partnered up with this guy named Rob Schraub on the Sarah Silverman show. And if you've ever seen literally anything else that Rob Schraub has done outside of the Sarah Silverman show, you will see his brain is just like this like adult wonderland of ridiculousness, and it might be one of my favorite places to see things come out of is Rob Schraub's brain. Like he has a comic book called Scud the Disposable Assassin, but he also did a bunch of pilots and little shows for Channel 101, and his were just some of the strangest things, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason that the show was compelling to me, and I'm just kind of a cartoon bitch anyways. And like, listen, I know that we could argue all day about it. Is there a better show? Sure, absolutely. Is there a better written show? Probably, whatever. But this show in particular was, it came about to me at a time where I was like on the road all the time. So then I didn't really I was just like constantly in a state of motion. And so because they were like playing it late on Comedy Central, any hotel that I was in, they would have Comedy Central because it was basic cable. And then it became kind of like my church, which like they do like a Family Guy episodes and you know, they always play the same kinds of shows the same times every single night. So it became like my constant, no matter where I was, it was like the one thing that was always like the same. It was no matter how much I was moving, there was still something that was always the same. So and I watched it a lot, and I really kind of fell in love with these characters. And the episode in particular that I would like to talk about is the episode where the entire show kind of changed for me, where it became just from an episodic kind of like a Simpsons or a Family Guy type of show, into now being emotionally invested in these characters more so than just watching what it is that they do or how they interact with each other.
I think that, I agree. Like this show is where the darkness was like unavoidable. Like you, after watching this episode, there's like no avoiding like the dark roots of the show.
Well, I mean, you have that early on in the episode where, they have to die and a 12-year-old boy has to bury himself. You have that darkness there, but I feel like this is more of an explanation because I'm also a psych nerd. So like I went to school to be a shrink for a long time. So all of that kind of like, not breakthrough, but like revelation or like explanation of people's behavior and shit like that is always very fascinating to me. So I think that that this episode in particular is where we really kind of start to dive into the minutia of why or is starting to scratch. I mean, now because there's been 6 seasons, we know so much, right? But at the time, that was like the first episode where I was like, oh, you guys are going to explain to us why he's an asshole or why he's this kind of narcissist and why he's this like borderline sociopath. You're going to explain a lot of it to us. And so that's kind of why I picked it, is I was like, oh, I love this character and thank you for explaining to me like giving me more to dig into why I would like them even further.
So do you think, do you find Rick to be like a sympathetic character, or like, because there's the fanboys of the show that like hold him up as like the thing to live up to, like that's what they want to be, but
most of those people are not intelligent enough,
right?
To really
That's the problem.
to understand that his intelligence is kind of cock blocking him from his own happiness. They also don't understand. Like, there's a lot of nuance in it. Mickey, please stop talking at any moment. Just give me a minute to say a thing or two about it. Just by the way, I just wanted a little side note. But yeah, like I think I also feel the same way about Rick and Morty that I feel about Tool, or that I feel about fucking, I don't know, Dave Matthews Band, or that I feel about the Grateful Dead. Like the product is fine. The people that like it are fucking idiots and annoying as shit to be around. So, I didn't rob a McDonald's because they had Szechuan sauce. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even think I participated.
It goes along the same lines as soccer and Monty Python, and Disney for adults.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's a great concept if it's just me watching a Monty Python movie and enjoying it for what it is, and the brilliance and the writing and all that stuff. But you get someone else that likes that movie in the same room, and now I hate the movie and I hate all the writers of that. And it's like,
right.
Soccer's great until you get like the hooligans, rioting in the streets and, sports and all that stuff.
Why are you burning down your city? You won. What's
it's like fans tend to ruin everything.
Yeah. And that's very much how it is for me with this show in particular. And, so I didn't participate in a lot of the fan stuff. I mean, I'm glad the show is thriving, and I'm glad the show exists. And unfortunately, I guess it took a lot of shitty fans in order for it to keep going. I don't know.
You thank God for the shitty fans.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm glad they're making money and it's doing really well. But at the same time, it's just like, I have no interest in participating or like, acting as any of those. But yeah, it was also, I mean, I also have I think the other part of it is my dad's not a genius, but I also have like a sordid relationship with my dad because my dad is also a narcissist, So I get that. I get a lot of the markers that they use in the show, but I also remember feeling like when I was younger, because now it doesn't matter. I can beat my dad up, so I don't give a shit. But when I was younger, being 12-year-old and scared of everything and vulnerable, having somebody like that around is like super scary and intimidating. But it also, whenever they're on your side, it also is, it makes you feel safe because they're such a loose cannon. You feel like you can kind of hide behind them.
Well, it's like safe and is almost empowering too. I remember my mom, also a narcissist. I remember like the few times when she would get on my side and like support me or like defend me even, I felt like invincible because it never happened, and it meant that I must have done something really awesome.
Yeah. So it means more, and we see that throughout this entire show all the time, and to the point where he gets fed up, and then he gets mad at Summer, his sister in the show, for placating into it, and I love that too. I love the arc of Morty being this kid, and also all the directions he goes into where he ends up being like, this is a lot of spoilers, by the way, if anybody's listening that's never watched Rick and Morty. There's just I guess you can't really do this podcast without spoiling something.
No, it's just like spoilers are assumed.
Yeah. But seeing points in the development of this 12-year-old boy where he maybe surpasses her as far as personal growth and like realizing what the hell is going on. And I think it's easier to do that when you're there all the time. It was the same, like, when people would meet my dad, they're like, oh my God, he's so fun. I'm like, yeah, because you're here for 3 hours. Yeah, I gotta deal with him after he clocks out and is a psycho, because my dad wasn't just a narcissist, he was also bipolar. So it was just a real loose cannon. rapid changing too. So it wouldn't be like 6 months of something and then a switch. It would be like multiple times in a day switch. Oh. So it's just nuts. So I got an affinity for crazy people. You know, I'm a comedian. I'm in the business of mentally ill. So I like a character that I can dig into that is flawed. I love a flawed hero, and I'm definitely not calling Rick a hero, but I guess a flawed protagonist. Yeah, flawed hero in the sense that in the storytelling sense. But yeah, I love it, and he's just the perfect amount of asshole, you know, and that's always a delight because I have an affinity for assholes.
God damn it, I do too, and I hate it.
Mm-hmm. I hate raised it. By one, yeah, it's just like it's hard to not, especially if they're funny. Oh, funny assholes.
Yes, it's fun and smart. Smart mm-hmm. and funny are the two. Mm-hmm. Fart's funny and an asshole.
Mm-hmm. If I ever participated in the weird rituals of modern dating, as far as a dating website or something like that, that would be my profile. It's just looking for a smart, funny asshole. And if you think you are a smart, funny asshole, you're probably not.
That's the problem.
It's the same thing. It's like the Rick and Morty fans will never be Rick because, you know,
they're not smart or funny.
They're not smart or funny. They're just assholes. That's the unfortunate part.
An unfounded asshole is the worst asshole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so anyways, in this particular episode, we meet one of Rick's exes.
This is the first ex of his that we meet, I think.
Yes, this is the first time we see that he's had relationships since he was no longer in a relationship with Beth's mom, which is his daughter, right? Morty's mom. We find out that, Morty's mom, Rick's daughter's mom, right? Yes. We still don't know that story at the point in this, at this point in this episode, but we do find out since then that he has had other partners, and so we find out they're like trying to do some sort of silly mission of like rummaging through an abandoned ship or something, trying to rob it. And
they were answering a distress signal, and they were bopping around to the cutest song at the beginning. And for some reason, the song reminded me of you. Like I've never paid attention to this song before, but like the lyrics were like, love, connection, experience.
Yeah, Morty.
Come together with love, connection, and experience. And I don't know, it was like a weird hippie happy thing, and it made me feel like Carmen.
Nice. Well, that's nice. That's a lovely thing to remind someone of me. That sounds great. I'll take it.
But they were answering a distress beacon is what was the beginning. Yeah, that's what set them off.
Mm-hmm. And then they go there, and then they're like, oh, these people are acting weird or whatever. And then the revelation is there is a hive mind that is occupying the bodies of these people that are on the ship. And Rick realizes it's his ex Unity, and his ex Unity now is like running a planet full of people. And then everybody's like, and then the grandkids are like, what the fuck is happening? And then we go through this whole, and it's also a perfect symbiosis of two toxic people or two people that are coming together that create a toxic relationship. And maybe they aren't as toxic. I mean, Rick, obviously we know that about Rick, but maybe Unity isn't. Maybe Unity isn't in it, but maybe Unity is definitely influenced by the asshole that Rick
She's
is.
Definitely an enabler too, 100%.
Oh yeah, mama like as an enabler, super big fan. So it was. I think that's another reason why this episode is matters to me, is because I got to see what it looked like from the outside, in the sense of like me going, oh yeah, I have. Probably shouldn't have yes-anded so much to this release. You know, some things you shouldn't zip zap zop. There's a thing called healthy boundaries, and then we see this kind of love bender that he goes on with this ex, where they're like just getting fucked up together, and he's basically having sex with everyone on this planet because they're all her. And doing all this weird kinky shit, and it's super fun. And his grandkids are just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I don't want to be here. And then they are also now caught up in the B story, which is them like getting these people to to snap out of being unity, like getting them out of the hive mind and realizing who they are. And then they unfortunately end up being racist because Summer is just trying to, being a young and like trying to be a progressive, valiant kid, right? She's just like, no, this isn't cool. You're like you're inhabiting all the bodies of all of these people without their consent. That's really fucked up. And then, she starts they figure out a way to get these people out of the hive mind, and then they just end up being racist. And so then it becomes like you tried to fix something and then it made the situation. Is this better? Is one person controlling everyone's mind worse than everyone being themselves, which happens to be racist? We're like, kill these people suck. And it's like, they look almost like you. What the fuck are you talking about? So it's
Morty's just standing there going, first race war, huh?
Yeah, because he's been through so much with Rick. Like he's already seen it, and she's just like, "What the fuck? Why are you guys doing this to each other?"
I'm also pretty sure that this is the first episode that we have any mention of Rick's dad at all. When he's like hang gliding into the stadium full of redheads with dudes who kind of look like his dad, saying, "What do they say? Go son, go."
Yeah, go son, go. Yeah. Because that's the cool thing about a hive mind is she can make anything that you want happen. So that's like,
that's like the ultimate enabling power.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. And man, as a person who also has the ultimate enabling power, it's I get it, girl. I get it, Unity. I fucking understand, man. But as you get older, you learn that you're not really helping anything. You're just people pleasing because you're people pleasing because you were missing love somewhere else in your life, and that's some shit that she needed to work out. It's hard to have that conversation with, but that's the nice like reveal at the end. There's a nice I wouldn't say it's a wrap up, but there is a moment where he wakes up and basically an entire planet of people breaks up with him.
And so via notes,
via multiple hundreds and hundreds of notes,
because she couldn't do it in person.
She couldn't do it in person, so she has to like everybody writes it. She's got to go inhabit another planet and be like and create a boundary, which that again was also a breakthrough for me. I had to go through the same thing where you have to realize that ultimately you're not really helping at all. You're just helping someone not grow, oftentimes.
Yeah. Sabotaging them almost, but not sabotage because
it's ultimately their responsibility. Their own well-being is, but you're not assisting and you're making it easier and making it more comfortable for them to not address it or fix anything or work on anything or anything like that. So yeah. So I get it. I'm not gonna lie, that was probably the first time a cartoon's ever made me cry before, but I definitely cried at that episode.
Have you watched BoJack also?
I've maybe watched the first season or half a season. I'm not like a huge it's not like I'm not a fan. I just haven't watched a lot of it.
That one has made me cry many, many, many times. It's very dark.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is I like dark, and I do too. I remember watching like Aeon Flux or something like that when I was a kid, maybe a little too young to have seen it to like really get it. But it was just like, it was like learning that the cartoons weren't always the way that they were being presented to me during the day, like daytime TV or, Monday, Sunday, Saturday morning cartoons or whatever the case is. It's like, it was just never really that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple episodes ago, we talked to Joe Chapowski about Metalocalypse, and we rewound back to the MTV, what was it called, Liquid TV days, and that was where Aeon Flux and Beavis and Butthead and Dog Boy, Daria. Well, Daria was part of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, she's a spinoff. Or I thought you remember. Yeah, but she was a spinoff show, but. She was also not. She was also played during the day too. She wasn't really as much of a dark show, I think, as maybe they did touch on things, which I thought was cool. They had like the episode about the bulimia when she was painting, and then the whole ordeal. But it definitely wasn't as dark, I would say, as some of the other ones. But it was just like, I just learning that, and the way that they did Rick and Morty, where it was adults, but if you also weren't you could also probably still watch it with your kids and them not realize, with the exception of some of the nudity and there's probably there's just some episodes I think you could have still let a kid watch, like the dog episode.
Oh, yeah.
But it's definitely like a 13 and up one for sure.
Well, even when I've watched all of the seasons of Rick and Morty multiple times, and even I feel like every time I watch an episode, I find something new in it, or I discover a new line, or like a new visual gag. There's so much packed into an episode. It is crazy, but it's not done in like the really fast-paced, like breakneck speed, like Family Guy or something. It's like done within a story, so that makes it, I think, even more of a feat.
Oh yeah, for sure. That, and also a lot of like just under the breath, like passive aggressive, just really like shitty people would do to each other. It's like so great. And the other thing that I like about it too is that they not only break the fourth wall, but they break the literary fourth wall, you know, where they're almost like, where they're making fun of themselves. Like that's happening more and more in the later episodes, where they're, you know, the what was it called? The story train episode, where they're basically like, we didn't know. It was essentially, they didn't know what the fuck they were going to do. So let's write a story about how we don't know what the fuck, you know, how, like this godlike character that's like pounding on them to give them this story, and they need this now or it's going to ruin everything. And then it's, you know, who is drawn kind of like a hotter version of Dan Harmon.
Yes.
And then it's everyone else on the ship is like freaking out to be able to make this happen without it all falling apart.
It's like the most meta.
Yeah.
Oh, when he takes the map of the train, and it's the story circle from Dan Harmon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and if like we have done a deep dive on Dan Harmon and Community, and like we went through the Harmontown phase and all this other stuff. So like we know the Dan Harmon story circle very, very, very well. So it's like, and most of the fans of Community and Rick and Morty have gone down that path, so they're familiar with the Dan Harmon story circle as well. So like, that was a huge joke for everyone that's a fan, but it's like, if you're not a fan, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But it's like this giant, huge inside joke for everybody. That
Well, that episode, they also threw in an inside joke for fans of the podcast when they used cum gutters, because they use cum gutters on Harmontown all the time, and hearing it in a Rick and Morty episode was very strange for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they love that. And it's almost like he's built kind of like a little bit of a cult, wherein now it's like, you can do that when you have an audience that's big enough that fucks with all of the stuff that you do. You can do that. You can do a lot of like cross references and stuff like that. And I also appreciate that too. That's somebody that's like writing with the people that love you in mind. Yeah. You know, or love them in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's obviously it's a 22-minute episode, easily wraps up easily. But the minutia in that episode in particular is palpable. And
we haven't even touched on the Beth and Jerry B story.
Oh, that's right. When
he goes looking for the weed whacker.
That just made me not.
And
after they answer the distress call, then we flash over to Jerry poking around the shelf in the garage, in the back on the right side of the garage, and Beth
on the shelf for a weed whacker.
Yeah,
and Beth kind of freaks out on him because, according to the description on HBO Max, Beth goes ham on him, and
those are my favorite things.
I know, their descriptions are very silly. This one's crazy, bro. Time travel, bro.
This one says Rick Dunn gets straight emotional in this one, bro. Beth and Jerry going ham on each other, bro. That's my favorite.
And so basically, she at this time in the show, Beth is still trying to father please, and because he abandoned her long ago and just has recently shown up, so she's trying to do everything she can to keep him in the house because she doesn't want to feel abandoned again. So she's freaking out because Jerry's not supposed to be in the garage, because that's
in therapy we call that anxious avoidant. Anxious ambivalent. That's what it is. It's anxious ambivalent. It's like, no, my God, please don't leave. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. It's just so terrified of abandonment that you're you act like an idiot. And she does. She does in these early episodes because she knows she doesn't want him to go anywhere. And yeah, so then of course she's going to defend him because it's like, he was like in the garage and she was like, you're not supposed to be in here. And then of course he's pitching a fit because like he also doesn't feel like he has any kind of control over his family because he's an idiot. Yeah.
And then there's the gurgling underneath the floor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then Jerry removes the rug
and finds
We find a hatch.
And then he freaks out about the hatch. Like the writing is brilliant because it's like I think they say hatch like 20 times, and it just gets funnier each time.
It's kind of like that moment in the movie Fun with Dick and Jane where Jim Carrey says indicted like 19 times in a matter of 30 seconds. And I don't even think he knows what the word means, but it doesn't matter because they just announce it on the news that he's getting indicted. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to be indicted. And then Jane's like, I don't even know what that means. He's like, oh, I'm getting indicted. It means indicted. That's what it means. It means I'm going to be indicted. So
I'm always fascinated by like how many times saying something gets funny, because there's like a certain point where it's not funny anymore, but then it's funny again afterwards. And I'm like fascinated by like what the numbers are. Like ultimate times for original funny, I think is like 3 times. But then if you repeat it like 4 or 5 times, it's not funny anymore. But then maybe if you get to like 6 or 7 times, it's funny again. I don't know.
I mean, it's also another good example of that is the bit about when Peter hurts his knee.
I was going to say one Peter knee.
And it's like, it just goes on so long that it goes from being funny to not being funny anymore to being funny again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a long desert to cross. Like, it's going to be funny. It's going to be really funny on the other side, but that's a long, dry desert to get through without that laugh. With the
payoff better be good. Your initial pop better be good enough for the callback pop to be big enough when they don't even have a chance to go away. They're gonna get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Very few people can pull that off, but when it's done, it's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. It's one of my favorite things. I think the only thing that makes me laugh more than that done right is when somebody does like a rhyming thing and swerves the last rhyme. I don't know why. I'm a sucker for that. It's the dumbest comedy. It's the easiest comedy to do, but it makes me laugh every time.
It's not easier than puns. Puns are the easiest.
True. Oh my God. We have a comedian out here because we go to an open mic every Wednesday here in Michigan. And we have a comedian that goes up and does puns, but nobody laughs at his puns. So he gets increasingly angrier throughout the set. So every pun is angrier than the last pun.
That's funny.
Talking about it is funny. Sitting through it is not.
That's like funny. If he had planned it to be that way, and that was like, but it's a natural reaction, and he's just upset that he's not funny.
The air in there by the end of his 5 minutes is like thick with just like everybody is like so stressed out watching him get angry puns.
Yeah, I feel like by the end of it, I'm certain that would be when I would enjoy it, is when he's just shouting these, these turns of phrases and shit.
But he gets so mad at the audience. He's like, that's really funny. You guys don't think that's a really good joke. You guys just don't get it. Everybody gets his puns. They're just not funny.
We get it. It's just not great. Yeah. We're just looking for something more than this. Sorry, you're trying to distract me from my falling apart marriage / shitty job. I'm sorry that this fucking meow pun that you're doing about cats isn't doing it for me. You're gonna need to give me something more than that,
And the puns like aren't even true. Like he's got one pun that fucking terrifies me every time because he has a pun about Fonzie dying, and every time I panic. I'm like, did he die? Did Henry Winkler die? And I don't know about it, but it's just a goddamn pun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what the joke is. It makes me so mad every time. I'm sorry. This was a sidebar.
I get it. I totally get it. Puns are infuriating to me too. I know that. Some people love them. I am not one of those people, but I don't, whatever.
Okay, so the gurgling.
So then they go to the gurgling, and then they go down. And this is another part of that I like about this is Beth she is also kind of enabling Jerry while she's complaining about him, which I've seen partners do this over and over and over again. And I loved that they put this in the show where they're like, no, we shouldn't be down here. We shouldn't even be down here while while she's looking around and also being a pain in the ass. Like, so I loved that was happening too, because she's also curious about her dad. She doesn't know enough, right? Who is this man that's now in my life again that I've so desperately sought? And but why does he have a hatch? What's going on down here? What is it? What's happening? So yeah, then we discover the hatch, and then of course the big reveal. You guys take it away.
What is it?
It's a core block.
Core block, yes. It's like this big, lumpy, wet alien creature held as prisoner. He's like got like 4 or 5 lumps or 3 lumps for a body. I don't know. He's got some lumps for a body and then some wiggly arms and legs, and he's just very wet. And he's locked up in the basement in a hatch, or in the garage in a hatch.
Okay, so Ryan Ridley's the writer of this, and I think he joined Community on like season 5 and then followed Dan. So this is a lot of this is an outside perspective of someone that watched Dan's spiral down into dementia and then realizing that Rick and Morty was going to be his legacy and then starting to kind of rebound from that. So, kind of giving credit where credit is due. A core block is if whenever Rick first gets to the distress call, he graffitis something saying that, the galactic cops will think it's a core block. And then Summer is like, oh, that's terrible, thinking that, it's basically saying that Rick's being racist. And then Rick turns it around and says, oh yeah, the cops are terrible. They are racist. But the core block, the graffiti that he's doing is the same creature that's in the basement.
Yeah. So he's also the asshole too. He's also shitty as a cop.
And when Beth and Jerry discover the creature, they're like discussing it, and Jerry's like, maybe it's an alien race that eats babies, and Beth's like, oh, maybe it has space AIDS, and Rick is trying to cure it. And then when the thing finally escapes because it can't take their arguing anymore, it gets like a little voice box thingy and puts it up to his neck and says, I do eat babies and I have space AIDS that Rick is trying to cure. So you are both right.
And Beth is like all excited because, she's like, oh yeah, well, at least my father was trying to cure a disease. And Bling Blang or Blick Blop or Blim Blam.
Blim Blam.
Blim Blam.
Blim Blam says, oh, and before you get all high and mighty, he was only curing it so you get the patent for the cure to make a whole bunch of money off of it. So take that.
Yeah, so it's like it's all of the things. It's the fact that he's an asshole. He's good and bad, but only good if it's like serving himself. This is where we start learning that it's fine tuning that, or pushing home the fact that Rick is a narcissist and is only looking out for his personal interests. And that's just not even in these missions, but you see it in his dynamic with his family, et cetera, and like turning people against each other over something and being petty to no end for absolutely nothing but his own personal gain. And this is a great example of that. And it's a perfect indication that, hey, there's something going on here with the two of you, and you guys are both using Rick as a catalyst or as, a blame placing or, the cause of it. But there's also an issue here that has nothing to do with him. This is you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's funny that the alien at the very end fucking says that to them. It's just like, you guys fucking suck. You guys suck.
After like 5 minutes of observing their relationship, he nails it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
And then like the kids decide they want to definitely leave Unity. Like they're done and they want Rick to go with them.
And then of course, naturally when you're caught up in a web, like if you with your junkie boyfriend or whatever, when you're in it, you don't realize it. And so Rick was like, I'm having the time of my life. Like, this is how it used to be. This is dope. Like we're on a love bender right now, and it's amazing. So fuck off, kids. You're cock blocking pawpaw, And so it's cool that you get this kind of like, it's just this moment where he's just like, no, whatever. And then of course he's got to, at the end of it, when she breaks up with him, he's got to drag his ass back to the kids and be like, all right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah. Yeah, now?
No.
No. Which happens multiple times in multiple seasons. But it's just like, but what's great is in the overarching of the entire show is like the kids they start becoming hip to it. Of if and when he's done it, where it's just like, are you just doing this? This, and it's just like, and then he gets mad about that. It's so fun. Fun.
I have a terrible memory, so it might have been addressed in an episode, and I don't remember it. But do you think that Rick tried to get Summer to be his sidekick first, and she turned him down?
No, it's got to be a Morty because it hides the brainwaves.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. But I do like it. I do like it when Summer is the sidekick too.
So do I.
It's very fun to watch. Problematic Rick be around a woman who's like socially conscious and
is not afraid to push back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you know she was Kelsey Grammer's daughter?
Oh, the chick that does the voice?
Yeah.
I did not know. I did not know that
either until today because I was looking at the cast and like most of the main voice cast are like someone that has done something before. So I was trying to figure out like, where's this other person from? And that's how nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
But she is great. She's perfect. I love her in the role, so whatever.
Yeah, I like that they started incorporating her more and made her less of like just the dumb sister or just the annoying sister, and started incorporating her more. And I mean, also Rick using her as like fuel to kind of like manipulate Morty into doing things or not doing things. But it would always be Morty because Morty is way more naive and way more like believes. He believes. Where when we saw the what's it called, the episode that has what's the Thunderdome movie that we're talking about?
Mad Max.
Yeah, it was the Mad Max themed episode. Yes. Where we get to go on a character development journey with Summer.
Oh my God!
To show that she's got way more than she runs, and she becomes. You also start to see that she's way more similar to Rick than maybe you would have wanted. Maybe,
yeah.
Or she gets it. Yeah, she understands it more.
I think she's probably the most similar to Rick in the whole family when you come deep down to it.
Yeah, out of all of them, for sure. I mean, Beth, obviously. I mean, specifically Space Beth. Yeah, she's probably the closest to Rick.
Yeah.
Which clone is which, but yeah, it's very much, you get to kind of start seeing that the more and more she's involved. But it's badass. And it's also like, I think I kind of liked how the show has evolved, writing wise. I feel like once they started figuring out these characters, they really kind of started pushing them out more and like really developing them in a way that I don't know. It's just real fun. And I think this is one of the episodes that was a shift for me because even like I said, even though the dark episode was there where the whole world is fucked up and they have to go to a completely different timeline and everything's changed, that's still science hijinks. But when you get into the minutia, there was just a lot of ethos for a cartoon in this episode, and I really liked that. I really liked the juxtaposition of it,
especially in the final scene. Like, I never let it really hit me the emotional way. Like it was just in my brain when I watched it before. It was like a cartoon, but when I try to watch stuff for the show, I try to pay a lot more attention, with all of my senses, all of my emotions, all of my things. And, and I guess I never realized, he was really ready to kill himself and he just passed out. He didn't just lay his head down in desperation. He just passed out and got lucky. Or unlucky.
Also, that's another thing. You don't get to see cartoons try to kill themselves very often. It's usually looked down upon. So it was I mean, it was in a weird way. It was kind of cool in the sense that you're showing us something that real people do in a not real situation, and that's that. Yeah, I mean, you see how dark it is, and you see how he acts like he doesn't give a fuck, but he is emotional turmoil on the inside. And
especially in the stinger scene when he is trying to get Unity back.
Yeah.
Drunk. Like classic dude.
Oh, that's right. Drunk classic dude. And then the guy who is voiced by the alien race, voiced by
Patton Oswalt,
is who is now acting as, because that was the whole thing, is she had like a thing going on with this guy, and then Rick shows up and like ruins everything, just like a great toxic ex, right? You're like have this new fun relationship, and then my fucking shitty ex shows up and like makes everything awful, and is like putting a wrench in all of this progress of me moving forward and trying to get out of this like horrible situation that I was in with this other person. And then and then of course he gets hammered, classic ex move, and then it just tries to like, and then if just like a good new dude, he's just like, fuck off, she doesn't want to see you, you're trash, you know it's bad, she wants her boundaries. That's the beautiful thing is I love that Unity finally learns boundaries. That was like one of the biggest things that I had to learn myself. It was so great. I was just like, wow, this hive mind bitch she really gets it. She really gets all of it. I think that's what it was. I resonated so much with Unity in the out of all of the characters, where I was just like, oh yeah, I've definitely seen how I get it. I get it, girl. I get it. But I'm glad you made it to the other side. I'm glad you're not still with this guy.
She did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know this is an unpopular Rick and Morty opinion, but I love Jerry Smith.
Oh, everybody loves Jerry. Everybody loves Jerry to hate him. He's the heel.
Love him.
He's the heel. That's the whole thing.
I have a Jerry tattoo.
Oh my God.
Well, wow, not Jerry. Really... I got a Hungry for Apples tattoo.
Wow.
From the Hungry for Apples episode, the one where he's living his life. Yes.
What is this, human music? I like human music. Just they make him so dumb that it's
so great.
It's so great.
He's convinced Hungry for Apples is the end all be all of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to Ryan Ridley, the writer, he's a true literature geek or screenwriting geek kind of way. And he actually included a Chekhov gun at the beginning. So when Jerry's going through all the cabinets, he actually pulled out the little alien that Rick tested the suicide machine on. Mm-hmm. And in the background, you can see the crystals for the suicide machine. So that's like, by the end of the show, this gun will go off, and it did at the very end of the show. Yeah,
it was like a Herald episode. Herald, if any improv nerds are listening, it's very much like we have to bring it all the way back, and those kind of things they're also super fun for people who pick up on them, because a lot of people won't even see that.
Yeah.
What do they call it? A mnemonic device or something? It's like ultimately it's foreshadowing, but it's something placed that will be addressed later on.
I think we did the thing. Do you think we did the thing?
I think we've covered everything. Sure.
Okay.
Unless you have anything. Like, do you want to give her an opportunity to promote stuff?
Oh, well, yeah. I have my 2 last questions.
Oh, sorry.
I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is, when you're doing a binge, like when you're binge watching a television show, do you skip the
intro?
Thank you.
Depends on the show. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Ooh, which are yeses?
Or
just recent. I don't know. Now I feel like I put you on the spot. Damn it.
What's an intro that you can't skip?
An intro I can't skip. I mean, I don't skip. I usually don't skip. Again, it depends on how much I'm binging too. Like when I was watching Stranger Things, I sometimes don't skip it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not consistent with anything I've ever done ever. So even in this, I don't always or never. I don't like to operate in absolutes. But yeah, like Rick and Morty, I always like to see because they change it every season. So I always like to look and see which ones, and curious if maybe they'll ever reference any of these things in episodes. Yeah, if I'm when I watched I watched all of Schitt's Creek all at once over the pandemic, and that I probably skipped. I mean,
yeah,
I skipped a lot. I mean, it's just those cutesy ones, or those, even if they're short, it's just like, all right, I guess give me the goods. I'm trying to get trying to get as much done as I possibly can. But I also like 80 synth, so that's why Stranger Things come out. Yeah, like I'm about it.
And my next question is about you. Like, if people enjoyed hearing you here, where can they find you and all of that fun stuff?
Oh, well, there's a few places you could find me. CarmenMorales.com for all of your Carmen Morales needs. For tour dates and ways to connect, buy my merch. Also, you can watch me do stand-up if you'd like on HBO Max. Oddly enough, right where Rick and Morty's at, same place. You could go watch my special that it just came out in May. It's called Entre Nos, Carmen and Alfred. You can see me do stand-up there. I will be, when is this coming out?
A month?
A month?
Yeah.
In a month, I will be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Laughing Tap. And I will also be at, you know what, just CarmenMorales.com. The tour dates, because now I'm just trying to do the math, and I don't remember which dates are in which order. I'll be in the middle of Montana for some reason at some point, November.
You're going to be freezing.
I will be freezing. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for having me on here and letting me talk about one of my favorite episodes. I appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right.
Definitely thank you for your entertainment throughout the pandemic.
Oh yeah,
sure.
I know that it was probably very difficult talking to an empty screen and all that stuff, but I think you and the groups that you put together, including Ron Funches, was excellent and amazing. And it was, during the early times of the lockdowns and stuff like that, it was amazing to have something to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it. I mean, we were all in the suck, so it's just, it's one of the things. It's like, I just want to bring joy. That's ultimately what I thrive for. If I can make a living doing it, that would be great. And so it was nice. That was the one thing. I mean, the silly line I always say about it is like, what I learned is that we are completely inessential according to our U.S. government. But it's nice to know that even though we are not needed, we were wanted. And that's as far as comedians go. And that's kind of what people, I have people that are fans because of that whole situation that are like diehard fans now forever, because they're awesome. Like, you made us laugh when we did not even think we could. So, and that's always super sweet. And I love that, and absolutely, it's my job. And I think people forgot that. I think that's why a lot of those kinds of, that type of entertainment was kind of shitty, is that everybody was just like turning on their camera and being like, so what else about me? And it's like, all right, well, are we gonna? That's not going to distract them from their imminent demise outside. You're going to need a little bit more pizzazz, guys. You're going to have to fake it a little bit. All right. But thank you. I appreciate for you guys watching it and liking it.
It was a good ass time.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think we're good, dude.
Awesome.
This is always the awkwardest part, so I'm just going to say bye.
Hell yeah. You guys, thanks so much for having me. Thank you folks for listening. Go watch the episode, and if you disagree, I don't care. But I appreciate it either way.
www.100timesrickandmorty.com. I had to make a bomb, Morty. I had to create a bomb.
What? A bomb?
We're gonna drop it down there and get a whole fresh start.
What? Indicted? Indicted?
That's not fair. They made you go on that show.
You hear what they said, Jane? I'm gonna be indicted.
Yeah, but you only said what they told you.
Indicted, Jane! Indicted! I'm gonna be indicted!
No, wait, it's gonna be okay.
Indicted!
Honey, Dick.
Indicted!
Honey.
I'm gonna be indicted!
Hold it. They can't. It's gonna be okay. Just calm down.
I can't calm down. I'm gonna be indicted! Indicted!